This is the history of Kenyatta International Conference Center. Kenyatta International Conference Center, which was built in 1973. Before 1973, to be specific, 1969, the tallest building in Kenya and probably in East Africa was Hilton Hotel. So in 1973 is when they constructed KICC. My own personal experience is that it was completed in 1974. Because in 1974, we were staying near this hospital at Kenya Polytechnic at TUK. There is a hospital there called Rhodes Avenue. We were staying next to it. So you can see it was completed in 1974. Officially it is said it is 1973, but I saw it. You see, some people tell me that I'm a good history teacher. To you it is history. To me, most of whatever I talk is what I lived through, what I saw, what I did, whatever. Now, in 1973, the building was tall and it used to be built for 24 hours. That is the first house I ever saw being built day and night. And in 1973, when I became aware of KICC, people used to call it KANU building. KANU building. KANU as a political party. I'll talk everything that I remember. Remember, these are things that happened that I went through. You who are young Kenyans or young Africans, there are things that are going on. One day when you'll be my age, you'll be surprising people. When to you, you'll be talking normal things and people will be shocked that you're talking history. I deliberately placed there the flower that is blooming. That is the concept of KICC. If you look at the two houses of KICC, there is the amphitheater and then there is that tall building. The concept of that building was that flower, whereby the amphitheater represents the flower before it blooms. But once it blooms, I cannot put two pictures in one video. So I would have just shown the two, KICC and the flower that is blooming. So I decided to place there the flower that is blooming. But if you look at it and you look at the KICC, you'll find that the flower before it blooms, it is like the amphitheater. Then once it has bloomed, it is like the extension that is there, that tall building, which was the tallest building for quite a long time until Times Tower was built in 1999. Recently, when Westgate Mall was attacked, there are some people in Western countries who are shocked that, you mean Nairobi is so developed that it has a mall? Well, Nairobi has over 20 malls. But you find some people think that Nairobi has not reached a stage where we can have even a single mall. Other towns have malls, Nakuru and whatever, they have malls. So when we developed, there was a time when having a conference center, we have so many conference centers. If you look at your TV, it talks about we have conference facilities for so many people, whatever. So around 1970, 71, 72, 70, we can call it early 70s. In early 70s, we did not have conference facilities in Kenya. So the government decided to build a conference center. And when the government decided to build a conference center, the government had a square area within the CBD. On one side of the area was the High Court, which today is called the Supreme Court. On the other side, there was the City Hall. And on the other side was the Parliament. And the other side was JI-TENGE. So it had a garden square. It had a square area that was just a garden. It was idle. And it belonged to the government. So the government said, because that time, remember I've just told you that somebody was shocked that Nairobi has a mall. And I said we have so many malls. At that time, having conference facilities was a problem in Kenya. In Kenya, I'm not talking of Nairobi, in Kenya. So the government decided to produce a conference center. And it produced a conference center on a land belonging to the Kenya government. When it developed a conference center in a garden square, which belonged to the government, that is when, I don't know, because 1973, I was in Standard 5. But I don't know why they started calling it KANU building. Because when it was being built, you know these houses which are being built, they say keep away, falling, whatever. When this house was being built, they built it and we used to call it Garden Square. We used to call it Garden Square. And as it was being built, we started calling it KANU building. But those days, in Kenya and in Africa, there was no difference between the ruling party and the government. Even as recent as 1993, you would find civil servants being told to be in KANU, because KANU flag and the national flag, it is so similar. It is only that the shield and the two white strips are not on the KANU flag. So maybe that is why they used to call it KANU building. The money that was used, because it was and it has been reverted back to Ministry of Tourism building. The money used was from the treasury. And who was the Minister for Finance at that time? 1973 or 1972, 1971. That is early 70s. The Minister for Finance was Emilio Mwai Ohwa Kibaki. After it was officially opened, it was named KENYATTA Conference Center. KENYATTA Conference Center. But then, during those days, Safari Rally used to start from City Hall. If you see the main gate to City Hall, which faces KICC, you'll find that there are some steps there. On the road, they used to place there a dais where vehicles would start from there. So in 1973, it was decided, that the ramp at City Hall Way was too small. People are becoming more interested in Safari Rally. I can tell you, wachana na hii maneno ya Naivasha. During our days, everything used to revolve around Safari Rally. So they saw that they should look for a bigger space, and the bigger space was in Garden Square, which is KICC. You have been hearing me repeatedly saying Garden Square, Garden Square, Garden Square. Yes, Garden Square was the official name of the plot. The plot was called Garden Square. And that is why somebody was given a lease to have a bar on one side, and he called his bar Garden Square. Now that one you know. I hope it reflects back to, what do you call? I hope it reflects back to pay bill. Now that is how it was. I said the concept was that flower, tulip flower, on one side before it blooms, and that later after it blooms. So we went and reached a place where I said that Safari Rally started there. And whenever announcers would announce on radio and TV, you know, those days, those people with the TVs were known. Whenever you'd go somewhere, you'd tell somebody, ukifika hapo, if you reach that place, you'll see the TV area. From the house with the TV area, now move this way, move that. Number of people with the TVs those days could be counted. Today, number of people without TVs can be counted. So those days people used to rely on radio. And the radio used to say, magari ilifika pahali fulani, kwa tenga alipoteza point ngapi, sijui nini. Those days. And they are telling people, ukitaka kuja, if you want to come to see them, don't go to City Hall. Go to KCC. Go to KCC. Meaning, go to Kenyatta Conference Center. And when they say go to Kenyatta Conference Center, KCC, people used to go to Dandora. You know, Dandora, there was a very big depot for KCC milk. I don't know whether that is why they decided to add I. They decided to add I, then it became Kenyatta International Conference Center. Recently, in this millennium, they changed it. The initial still remained KICC, but they called it Kenyatta International Convention Center. Those days it used to be, it started, the first name was Kenyatta Conference Center. They changed from Kenyatta Conference Center, it became Kenyatta International Conference Center. But now it is Kenyatta International Convention Center. That building is built in a very different formation. It is one of the houses, and that is why the case was that way. You see, it has a police station there. It has a police station there, and there was a time we had special police officers there. I do not know whether they still have special police officers within Kenyatta Conference Center, but when I was attending the basic intelligence officers course in November 1984, we were taken to KIC, by then it was KCC. We were taken to Kenyatta Conference Center and we were shown around. I'll talk about it. And then we were shown special police officers. When we were shown the special police officers, they had police identification, but we were told that they were police officers as far as Garden Square is concerned. We being police officers, anywhere in Kenya, we could participate in our police duties. But KICC special police officers had only powers of police within KICC. You move out of KICC, let's say you go to City Hall, you become a civilian. I interviewed a few of them and noticed that their level of English was very high. Their level of English was very high. You could be mistaken that you'd be talking to a police officer in New York. But I concluded that they placed there the special people because a lot of tourists were going there. And I'm sure nobody would have wanted to place there a Mutiso or a Kiplangat who say, "Kitu gani kichana nakuja kufanya nini hapa? Wapi birth certificate, wapi ID, wapi death certificate?" Where hakuna death certificate hapa na Kenya. So they wanted to place a police officer who would say, "Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Any problem here?" Yeah? New York Police, NYPD. That is why we had a special. And during those days, I don't know whether it is still there, there was a provision in the Police Act where special areas could house special police officers. And those police officers were as good police officers as any other, but their jurisdiction is within the police station. Now, finally, as I complete, I want to talk about the architecture of this house. I've talked of the architecture of this house as far as ownership is. It is a plot, Garden Square was a plot belonging to the government. The funding to use it were used by the Ministry of Finance, because if it were to be a KANU building, then the membership, which was compulsory then those 20 shillings we would be contributing. Then KANU would have built with that, or KANU would have refunded the government with that money. While we were having the 1984 basic course, we were taken over, we were shown all security features of the house. And then when we were asked if we had questions, I asked that person, that was 1984, I said, when I was growing up, this building was called KANU building. Can you elaborate on that? The way he looked at me, the way the tension was in the house, that question was never answered. But actions speak louder than words. His action, because he spoke nothing, he just said, "Next question." But whatever action he did, it was obvious to me and my coursemate that I had covered something that I was not supposed to comment on. So the story ended there and then. The building is built if I have to talk of, it's not, you know me, I'm not somebody to hide things, but I'm saying if I was to talk about physical features of that place, I would take 2 more videos to do that. But it is done in such a way that on the ground floor, there is a command center that controls. Imagine 1973, the technology, the CCTV, the whatever, was only on the KICC. And then when you go up, somewhere there used to be a revolving restaurant. Revolving meaning that if you sat there for a long time, maybe hours, you'd find that when you are seated, where the place you are seated was facing west, and after a moment you'll still face west, but you'll find that you have rotated 360 and come back. And then on top of that there was a helipad, and that helipad is very good. If you have time, I don't know whether nowadays you need security clearance to go there, but you can see Nairobi so well. There is a helipad, and I remember when Mutula Kilonzo, the late, was the minister for Nairobi, he was saying that he would want future building to have helipads. The advantage of a helipad is this. When Bwenyenye, there are some people in East Africa who are called Bwenyenye, and maybe you are on the 40th floor, and you want to move from there, let's say, to one of the airports, or even to your home. Now, coming down with a lift, then we're going through the traffic jam, you just go up there, you order an helicopter, and then go. And I said you order because I said you are a Bwenyenye. Viewers, that is what I know about KICC. Thank you.